Dr. Elias Voss adjusted the visor of his helmet. The stale air of the exoplanet pressing against the suit. The ruins of the VA-Thran civilization stretched before him. Monolithic structures, cracked and eroded by time, their towering forms whispering of a species long forgotten. The discovery had sent shockwaves through the scientific community. The VA-Thran were among the oldest known spacefaring civilizations, yet their records vanished in an instant. No war, no plague, just gone. The excavation site had been operational for weeks, sifting through fragments of a dead empire. But today was different. Deep beneath the ruined city, an ancient archive had been uncovered. The data storage units were remarkably intact, buried beneath layers of stone and metal shielding. Elias knelt, brushing the dust off the control panel. His gloved fingers hesitated before activating it. A flickering screen sputtered to life, displaying lines in unfamiliar script, twisting in eerie symmetry. The translator took several seconds before the first legible words appeared. Do not wake it. Do not approach the Black Veil. Stay away from Earth. Elias frowned. That made no sense. The VA-Thran had died out long before humanity even touched the stars. What could they possibly have known about Earth? His team, gathered around the monitor, exchanged uneasy glances. Dr. Malik, the expedition xenolinguist, ran the text through multiple filters, confirming the accuracy. The same phrase appeared in different sections of the archive, repeated as if it were a mantra, a final, desperate warning. Curiosity overrode hesitation. They extracted more data, combing through the records. The deeper they dug, the more unsettling the messages became. The warnings were not vague, they were specific, urgent. Entire sections of text were dedicated to describing something only referred to as the unseen. And then there was the timestamp. The messages weren't written at the peak of the VA-Thran civilization. They were written just before their extinction. The warning wasn't from a golden age. It was from the end. Elias sent the data back to the main research ship in orbit, linking it to broader databases. It didn't take long for a pattern to emerge. The same phrase appeared across multiple dead civilizations, each separated by millennia. The Targoth, a reptilian species whose war fleets once dominated a third of the galaxy, had recorded the warning just before their sudden disappearance. The Zilkra, master geneticists who had engineered entire ecosystems, left behind a nearly identical message. Even the Yunkai, a race that had long been dismissed as myths, had etched similar words into their obsidian monuments. Every single one of them had vanished without explanation. The anomaly was too great to ignore. There was no known connection between these civilizations. They had risen and fallen in isolation, light years apart, with no shared history. And yet, somehow, they had all written the same thing: stay away from Earth. By now, the research teams on the main vessel were in chaos. Data analysts scrambled to verify the findings, cross-referencing thousands of historical records. The odds of multiple dead civilizations leaving identical warnings were astronomical. Someone suggested a coincidence. Another proposed an elaborate hoax, though who or what could fabricate warnings across time and space was a question left unanswered. Elias, however, wasn't convinced by either explanation. He had seen countless alien ruins, translated messages of war, famine, and desperation, but nothing like this. Warnings were always about tangible threats, biological plagues, invading armadas, planetary collapses. This was different. It wasn't a warning about an enemy. It was a warning about a place. A message came in from orbit. One of the analysts had expanded the search parameters, running the phrase through restricted human records. The results came back within seconds. Earth's oldest transmissions, primitive radio waves sent out into space, have been intercepted by various species over the centuries. Most were ignored as background noise. But deep in the classified archives of humanity's own interstellar reconnaissance, there was an entry that bore an uncanny resemblance to what Elias had just uncovered. The same phrase, not written by aliens, not left behind by ancient empires. It had been received. A distorted transmission, detected on the fringes of the Oort cloud nearly 300 years ago, repeating those same words over and over. The message was dismissed at the time, assumed to be a fragment of some lost alien beacon. But now, with this discovery, the implications were horrifying. The warning wasn't sent by an extinct species. It had been sent to them. Elias sat in silence as the weight of the revelation settled over him. The ruins around him felt colder, more oppressive. This wasn't just an archaeological find anymore. It was something bigger, something alive in the background of history, touching species after species, era after era. And if every civilization that received the warning had vanished, then why was humanity still here? The data was sent back to the United Human Systems headquarters, but the response was immediate and unsettling. The transmission was flagged, rerouted, and within minutes, Elias's personal comlink lit up with an urgent priority override. No preamble, no diplomatic courtesy, just a single order: stop everything, secure the data, wait for further instruction. Elias exchanged glances with his crew. They knew what this meant: official intervention. Someone high up didn't just want to review the findings. They want to control them, and that was never a good sign. Less than an hour later, a classified transmission came through. The UHS had sent someone to handle the situation personally. Admiral Lorne, a name that carried weight. Not just another bureaucrat, but a man who had operated in the darkest corridors of interstellar security. If Lorne was involved, this was bigger than Elias had imagined. The hologram materialized in front of them, and there he was, tall, rigid, eyes sharp with a caution Elias had never seen before. But what disturbed him most was a lack of surprise on Lorne's face. "You should have left that archive buried," the Admiral said. Elias folded his arms. "So you knew?" Lorne's silence confirmed it. The crew shifted uncomfortably, exchanging looks. This wasn't just an archaeological breakthrough. It was a covered-up truth. Elias leaned forward. "How long?" A long pause. Then Lorne sighed. "We've been aware of the warnings for nearly 2 centuries. Elias felt a cold weight settle in his chest. 2 centuries. That meant humanity had been sitting on this information since before they even made first contact with the galactic community. And you never thought to share that? Lorne's expression hardened. What exactly will we share? That every species that digs too deep into Earth's mystery disappears? That we have no explanation, only patterns, only absence? He exhaled, shaking his head. We tried to dismiss it as coincidence. We wanted it to be coincidence. But the evidence never lined up that way. Elias's mind raced. He thought about the Corthian Dominion, the last major empire to vanish without a trace. They had been aggressive expansionists, arrogant in their conquests. They had also been one of the few civilizations with direct interest in Earth. "Tell me the truth," Elias said. "The Corthians, what happened to them?" Lorne hesitated. And that was all the confirmation Elias needed. They sent ships, didn't they? Elias pressed. They tried to figure out. Lorne's voice was quiet when he finally spoke. They sent an armada, a full-scale reconnaissance fleet, and they ceased to exist. The words hung in the air, heavy and absolute. Elias clenched his jaw. The Corthians had ruled vast stretches of the galaxy, a war-hardened species with fleets that could annihilate entire worlds. They hadn't just disappeared. They had been erased. No wreckage, no distress signals. Nothing. And suddenly Elias understood. It wasn't just about keeping Earth safe. It was about keeping everyone else away. "What did they see?" he asked. "What did the Corthians find?" Lorne didn't answer. Or maybe he couldn't. But there was something else nagging at Elias. The warnings. The fact that the VA Thren, the Targoth, the Zilkra, all of them had written their warnings before vanishing. That meant something had let them live long enough to warn the next civilization. But humanity? Humanity was still here. It hadn't been erased. It hadn't been silenced. "Why us?" Elias asked, voicing the thought aloud. "Why haven't we been wiped out like the others?" Lorne's expression darkened. "We don't know." And that was what scared Elias the most, because if the pattern held, if every species that tried to understand Earth vanished, then humanity was the exception. But exceptions had reasons, and Elias was beginning to think that they weren't the ones keeping the secret. They were the secret. The silence after Lorne's words was suffocating. No one in the room spoke, as if saying it aloud would make it real. Elias felt his pulse hammering in his ears. The implications were clear. Every species that investigated Earth was removed from existence. The only question left was why humanity had been spared, and there was only one way to find out. Elias made his decision. "I want access to the deep space observation logs," he said. Lauren's gaze locked onto him. "Absolutely not." But Elias wasn't asking for permission. He was already transmitting a secure request to the Oort Cloud Research Station, a black site observatory hidden beyond Pluto. It was humanity's first deep space monitoring outpost, placed there before the rest of the galaxy even acknowledged them. If any part of UHS had a record of anomalies near Earth, it would be there. The reply came faster than expected. A single encrypted file. No warnings, no authorization checks. Just coordinates and an attached Corthian distress log. Elias exhaled sharply. "I think I just got what we need." The team gathered around as he played the Corthian recording. The transmission was garbled, static-laced, but the desperation in the alien voice was unmistakable. "Approaching Sol system. Anomalies detected. Something is here. It's not a planet." A sharp burst of interference. The voice returned. "Higher," panicked. "Fleet is gone. No debris, no remains, just gone. It sees us, it sees us." The transmission cut out. Elias clenched his fists. This wasn't just an old horror story. The Corthians had been wiped out mid-transmission. Whatever they saw, whatever had been watching them, had erased them in an instant. A deep pit formed in his stomach. He opened the attached coordinates and cross-referenced them with modern observation data. The results sent a chill through him. There was nothing there. No stars, no planetary objects. Just a vast, empty void beyond the edges of the solar system. A place where the laws of physics said something should be, but wasn't. "What are we looking at?" Malik whispered. Elias didn't have an answer. But if the warning messages were right, then this absence, this blank space in the cosmos, was a black veil every lost civilization had spoken of, and it was watching them now. A sudden tremor ran through the ship. Emergency lights flickered. The crew jumped to their stations as system alerts flooded in. Power fluctuations, sensor malfunctions. Then came the impossible reading. A shadow, moving at sublight speed, too large to be a ship, too precise to be a random object. It wasn't reflecting light. It wasn't emitting radiation. It was simply there, shifting beyond the solar system's edge. The Deep Space Telescope automatically zoomed in. For the first time in human history, someone looked at what was hiding beyond the stars. Elias felt a chill spread through his body. The image on screen was difficult to comprehend. Not a ship, not a structure. Something vast, unknowable, with no fixed shape, an absence in space where there should have been light. And it was moving toward them. A voice crackled over the comms. "Sir, incoming transmission." Elias's throat went dry. "From where?" The operator swallowed. "It's not on any frequency we use. It's just appearing." A deep, resonant hum filled the ship. It wasn't sound, not really. It was inside their heads. A thought, not their own. A presence, pressing against their minds like the weight of deep ocean water. A single message burned into their consciousness. "You were not meant to look." The ship's lights cut out. Darkness swallowed the ship. Not just a power failure, something deeper. A silence so absolute it felt unnatural, as if sound itself had been stolen away. Elias couldn't move. His body was frozen, not by fear, but by something else, something holding him in place. The presence was still there, pressing against his thoughts, vast and unknowable. It wasn't speaking in words. It wasn't communicating in any way that made sense. It simply was a force, an intelligence so far beyond him that it felt like the mind of a god. A single thought forced itself into his brain. "Leave." The ship lurched. Consoles flickered back to life. Emergency sirens screamed. The crew gasped, staggering as control returned to their bodies. Elias barely registered the chaos. His attention was locked onto screen. The void at the edge of the solar system was retreating. No, not retreating. Receding, as if it had never been there. As if the universe itself was folding it away. Then it was gone. The ship's long-range sensors swept the sector. Nothing. No anomalies, no disturbances. Just the cold, indifferent emptiness of space. Report. Lorne barked, his voice sharp. The crew scrambled. Systems were online. Navigation functional. Power restored. It was as if nothing had happened. But something had happened. Elias exhaled, forcing himself to focus. His thoughts felt sluggish, like he had just woken from a dream or a nightmare. He looked at Malik, whose face was pale, eyes wide with the kind of fear that stays. "We need to go," Elias said. Lorne nodded. No arguments. No debates. Just understanding. The research mission was over. Whatever they had uncovered, whatever had been watching, had let them go. This time, the ship turned, engines igniting as they broke orbit, leaving the dead Vithren ruins behind. As they entered hyperspace, the tension remained thick, unspoken but felt. They weren't the same crew who had landed. Elias sat in his quarters, staring at his console. The decrypted warnings from lost civilizations were still there, glowing on the screen. Over and over again, the same message. Do not wake it. Do not approach the Black Veil. Stay away from Earth. But something didn't add up. The warnings weren't telling others to fear Earth. They were telling others to stay away from whatever was already watching it. Elias clenched his fists. The question that had haunted him from the start remained unanswered. Why had humanity been spared? His thoughts drifted to the ancient warning signals, to the fact that every other species who had received them had vanished. Had Earth been a warning or a trap? A chilling realization settled in his mind. The lost civilizations had tried to uncover the secret of Earth, and in doing so, they had looked directly at something they were never meant to see. Something that was still watching, and for reasons beyond their understanding. It had decided to let humanity exist. For now,